Hey guys, Helen Hart Smith here again from the Heart of the Witch's Path YouTube channel. Welcome to another tarot video. I know it's been a little bit since I recorded the first video in this little series that I wanted to do about comparing the tarot cards. So here we are with the second video. And so real quick before we kind of dive in, I want to remind you of the decks that I am using for this comparison series. In the center here, you will see the Rider-Waite Deck. This is the kind of traditional tarot deck. This is actually the first deck that I owned. And so this is kind of like the baseline is what I'm using this one for. And then this one over here is the Night Sun Tarot. This is probably one of the most recent decks that I've purchased. I really like the imagery, and I like how this deck is put together. So I wanted to use that in this comparison. And then my favorite deck happens to be the Steampunk Tarot by Barbara Moore and illustrated by Ali Fell. And so the Steampunk, as I said, my favorite. I'm a big Steampunk fan. So these are the three that we're using for the comparison to in this series. So as you can see here, the number one card in the Major Arcana is the Magician. And so let's get a little close up on the Magician. Let's start with the Rider-Waite, and let's really kind of look at the details of these cards, okay? And then we will compare them. We'll compare the looks, and then we'll compare the book meanings for the resources that come with each of these decks. All right, let's get closer. All right, here we are starting with the Rider-Waite Magician. Such a bright, colorful, basically I get joy when I see this card. I love all the yellow and things like that. I love the flowers depicted in the corners here and along the bottom of the card. I just get a really good feeling when I see this card. I love how he's holding, our magician here is holding a candle upright. I like that stance. This is actually, ooh, I don't remember. Oh, I wish I would have realized this before I looked it up. This position is actually a position that's used in ceremonial magic, I believe. If I remember what this is, I will put it in the description box. Oh man, I really wish I would have thought of that and realized that before filming so I could have looked it up. Very interesting. But you see before the Magician here are his tools of the trade, so to speak. We have a beautiful golden chalice here. We have a pentacle on the table. We also have a blade, a sword, lying on the table, as well as a staff. So these are the tools of a magician, the tools of a witch, and they also happen to be the four suits of the tarot deck. I really like this. It's so classic. Oh, and I also wanted to mention the infinity symbol that we see here at the top of the card. I just get a sense of power and good things and magic, quite honestly. You know, it's the Magician. I mean, what else will you feel besides magic looking at this particular card, right? So let's go ahead and bring in then the Steampunk card. See if I can get these centered nicely. So here we have the Steampunk Magician. The first thing that strikes me about this card is I love the bald-headed magician. I'm not entirely sure why. I think it makes me think of like maybe the Mummy movies. Maybe that's what I'm thinking about. I don't think there's anyone that's particularly bald, but there's when I think of ceremonial magic, I really think about the ancient Egyptians, as well as folks like Crowley and the Golden Dawn and things like that. But this depiction of the magician just oozes power for me. I love look at the central spotlight that he's standing under. I love that. That just, it lends a bit of mystery to the card, and to the magician. The next thing that I notice right away is that here we have at the top of the card, you can see the infinity symbol, like we had here in the Rider-Waite. So that was nice to kind of see that compared to this as I call my baseline here, and you'll see also that we do have a pair of candles here on this particular card, whereas on the Rider-Waite we had the one, but it almost looks as if it's burning from both ends. I don't know if you can, let me lift this maybe and try to bring that closer. Do you see how that candle that the magician is holding, it almost looks like it's burning at both ends. That's kind of interesting. But we have the pair of candles on the Steampunk deck. You'll also see that we have the 4 tools as well. The magician on this card is standing in the pentacle, a little bit different application than what we had here in the Rider-Waite. He's holding in his left hand the sword. In his right hand is the cup, another beautiful golden cup. And then on the floor here as well, we have the wand. So I like how we have very similar items from the original card. I'll call it the original. Yeah. Here, the only thing that we're kind of missing is flowers. And now that I'm kind of taking a second look at both of them too, I don't know if this really comes out in the video here, but the cape that the magician is wearing is a very deep burgundy color. And then when we look at the Rider-Waite card, it's not necessarily a cape, but it is an over tunic or robe or what have you. This is red in color as well. So there's that commonality that they have in that they both have too. So that's kind of interesting. So okay, so that's I like what I'm seeing. I like the comparison, or the commonalities that I'm seeing between these two cards. That's cool for me. So let's switch this up then and bring the magician in from the Night Sun deck. Okay. And now we have the Night Sun Tarot magician alongside the Rider-Waite. Man, the detail work in this Night Sun deck, it is one of the things that really drew me to the deck to begin with. So let's start off with some of the obvious similarities and then work into how this card is different from the Rider-Waite. So of course we have a man depicted here. He seems to be hairless, a bit like the steampunk magician, and his head happens to be, looks like it's painted in the same color as what little garments that he is wearing. One thing that I noticed right away was that on these little loops of what we've got going on up here in the shoulder region, we have the alchemical symbols for the elements are on each of these 4 ribbons. Okay, that's a little interesting. Down here at the bottom, this might be a little dark for you to see. I might just lift this so you can maybe get a little bit better. So here we have the tools, as we have seen in the other two cards. So there is the blade. That is the one that kind of sticks out the best because of its color. And then we have the pentacle here, although it just kind of comes off as a pentagon shape in the center on a disc, but that's okay. We get the gist there. We have a wand it's very dark in color, so I'm hoping that you can kind of pick up on that. And then we have the cup, which is again dark, which is standing here. So, and that's about where the commonalities end between this card and this card. I do appreciate all of the high magic references that come through in this deck. Along in the back here on the wall, you might be able to pick out some of the alchemical signs here. Some are planetary even, like this is the symbol for Earth here, that hopefully you can pick that out. And then right here, kind of sideways, is the Taurus. And who knows, there might even be a detail behind that makes it a goddess symbol. But it is a god symbol too, with that horn and the circle. We have the Abrahadama, I can't really, it's kind of hard to read. Basically kind of words of power. A lot of times we hear abracadabra in terms of cartoon magicians, but that is actually present in high magic and ceremonial magic. So that's interesting to me. As far as there's like so much detail, like I don't even know where to go. But so let's just talk about the impressions that I get when I look at this card. In the other two cards, I really felt power. As I said, I liked the brightness of the Rider-Waite. I liked the mystery of the steampunk. This card is power, but in a different way. This is almost like a raw, unharnessed power that I feel when I look at this. You'll see down here with the tools, you'll see a 777. And the 777 like that has a lot of meaning in many religions across the world. I actually looked it up so that I could have a reference point. In Golden Dawn and the work of Aleister Crowley, their 777 is a title of one of his books. In the Bible, Lamech, who is the father of Noah, lived to be 770 years old. And so the number 7 is a very powerful magical number. 3 and 7 are considered perfect numbers in Hebrew tradition. In Christianity, of course, we've got the 7 days of the week, how God rested on the seventh day after creating the earth. There is talk about how the 777 is contrasted against the 666, which is the number of the beast. In the Thelema tradition, which is of course kind of coming back to Aleister Crowley. As I spoke, it was part of a title of a book. And so 777 and sevens in general have a lot of meaning magically and spiritually in many traditions. So there's just a raw power that I feel in looking at this card. And I don't know if you can see this, but the magician in this card is kind of, there's beads, there's strings of beads that are coming out of his mouth. And you will see that kind of coming down. There it looks like there's 4, which could be in reference to the 4 elements because we see those symbols on the ribbons here. But I just feel like this is very much about a raw power. That yes, there's power in the other 2 cards that we're looking at here, but those seemed more. These seem more refined, where this seems more raw to me. Okay, so that's like looking at the depictions. So I would say that this card is the one that is the most different from the Rider-Waite, and the Steampunk is the closer. Okay, and again, I don't want to say that, I'm not saying that one deck is better or wrong or anything like that. We're just doing a comparison in these videos. So I'm going to pull back out and put all 3 cards in the frame, and let's talk about the meanings that we get from the reference materials. Okay. And here we have all 3 of them again. And again, just to kind of refresh our memory, Rider-Waite in the center. This is the Night Sun from the Night Sun deck, and this is from the Steampunk deck. Let's talk about the reference material for the Night Sun card first. Excuse me. Night Sun does not deal with reversed meanings, and neither does the Steampunk deck. So the Rider-Waite is the only one in these 3 that have reversed meanings. So the Magician in the Night Sun, it talks about willpower and choosing and beginning, free will, astuteness, potential, persuasion, initiative, prejudice, hesitation, imprudence, and indecision. And so another thing about the Night Sun with these major arcana, it gives you a question to ponder when this card comes up in a reading. And that question is, where should I direct my potential? So that kind of harkens back to what I get when I look at this card about that raw potential. There's a lot there, and what do I do with it? Okay, and then let's move to the Rider-Waite. The Rider-Waite Magician is about skill and diplomacy, address, sickness, pain, loss, disaster, self-confidence, and will. Now the reversed meaning for that card is physician, magus, mental disease, disgrace, and disquiet. So if we're using the Rider-Waite as kind of a baseline, I'm going to kind of disregard the reversed meaning just because the others don't have reversed meanings, but there's similar themes, but not, as far as, there's not even, this card talks about skill and diplomacy and will and self-confidence. And so those are things that you need when you want to work magic, when you want to be a mage, a magician, a magus. Whereas this card talked about willpower, so there's that. But it also talked about beginning, astuteness, and potential. So this one is almost a little bit more refined in its meaning, I feel, than this one. And that's just my opinion. But that's just looking at the resource material. And finally, let's look at our last card. That would be the Magician from the Steampunk deck. Now, the Steampunk deck book, it has a quote and a core meaning for each of the cards, and then we go into a bit more reading material. So the quote for this card is, "Magic is always there, learn to feel it." And I just love that when talking about this particular card and in magic in general. Now the core meaning is using knowledge, resources, and will to create change in the world. So you'll see that we have a common theme then with that will, and as I understand magic, you use your will to harness energy to create change. So that makes sense to me. Now, as far as the meaning for if this card were to come up into a reading, the meaning is it's time to make some magic in your life. And creating magic requires first and foremost an understanding of your will. You must know what you want in order to create it. Secondly, you need to bring your very best skills into play, which that makes sense to me. Love that. And thirdly, magic requires connection with the universe and the energies involved. The secret of this card is that you already have all of that: will, skills, and connection. Okay, so now let's think about that meaning and bring it back to the Rider-Waite. So the Rider-Waite talks about skill, diplomacy, address, sickness, pain, loss, disaster, self-confidence, and will. So we've got that skill and will that are talked about in both. And I really see where diplomacy is the same as understanding. And so I feel like in general, there's a very nice common meaning between these cards. And while the meaning between the Rider-Waite and the Night Sun might not be it's not as easy to see, like common, it's not spelled out, I guess I should say. I'm like struggling to find words here, so I apologize. But it is there. So there's definitely themes that are that you can see through all three of these. So I feel like these cards between the three decks are pretty much on par with each other. So I like to see that. So I'm feeling very good about the Magician's cards. So there's that. If you like these videos, then let me know about it. Give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comments. Do you have, is your favorite deck like really different from these, or is it similar? Let me know. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button, guys. We like to have you come back here, checking out the videos and such. Let's see. There's all kinds of links in the description box for social media and things like that. And I will put links in the box too for where, to go to Amazon to purchase any of these decks if you're interested. As far as I know, all three of these decks are still available. That's another reason why I kind of picked them too. So that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and thank you for taking the time to walk the path for a little while with me. Until next time, blessed be.